It's 1989. The scent of buttery popcorn and soft pretzels lingers in the air. Neon lights flicker overhead as the sound of clinking quarters and digitized explosions echo through the arcade. Your mom just dropped you off for an hour of freedom. And right there, glowing like a beacon through the crowd, is the game you've been waiting for. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Cowabunga, everybody! Welcome to another episode of Arcade Economy, the show where we put arcade games on trial to determine just how much they would have cost to beat during the year that they were released. In my last video, we took a look at the X-Men arcade game. Now, originally I was going to do WrestleMania the arcade game as my next game, but I received an overwhelming amount of comments from the community, you guys, asking for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, so I figured it would be best to give the community what they wanted and have this game skip the line. We'll also be taking a brief look at the game's development, history, and gameplay. Will this game wind up more predatory than the other games we've looked at? We're going to find out. If you were a kid who grew up in the 80s and early 90s, then there's a pretty damn good chance that your favorite cartoon was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. For me, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was one of my first favorite shows that I can remember. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles originally started off as an indie comic book released by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird in 1984. The comic was an instant success, selling out its initial 3,000 copies in just a few weeks. The comic grew in popularity over the next few years, and in 1987, Eastman and Laird had licensed the Ninja Turtles out to Playmates Toys, which, in turn, means that the IP would get an animated series to help sell the toys. That's actually how most toys work. The toys are the product, and the show is the advertisement. In late December 1987, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles debuted as a 5-part miniseries, with the toys launching half a year later in 1988. The series featured a lighter, more family-friendly tone compared to the comics, and launched the franchise to incredible heights for decades to come. Both the series and the comic, which used black and white art style resembling Japanese manga, caught the eye of the Japanese video game studio Konami. Konami sought out the franchise for licensing to bring the Turtles to home consoles, arcades, and handhelds everywhere. In 1989, Konami unleashed one of the most punishing games ever with the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles title for the NES. That same year, a 4-player Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game hit arcades worldwide. Just like the comics, cartoons, and action figures, both games were instant hits, with the arcade becoming Konami's highest-grossing arcade game. A year later, the arcade game was ported to the NES as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. While the port had its limitations compared to the original arcade, it was still a solid adaptation. In 1991, the game made its way to various home computers, though, let's be honest, those versions aren't really worth discussing. It was a great start, but this was just the beginning of a long journey of Ninja Turtles video games. The Turtles made their mark on the Game Boy with a trilogy of games: Fall of the Foot Clan in 1990, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Back from the Sewers in 1991, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Radical Rescue in 1993. Speaking of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, the NES received its own sequel, The Manhattan Project, in 1991, while arcades got Turtles in Time, which was later ported to the SNES in 1992. Side note, yes, I will be covering this game in a future episode. 1992 also brought the Hyperstone Heist, a Sega console exclusive beat-em-up, and 1993 saw Konami's attempt to capitalize on the fighting game boom with the release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters for the SNES and Sega Genesis. An NES version followed in 1994, marking the end of a 6-year run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. Nearly a decade would pass before the Turtles returned to gaming in 2003, now sporting updated branding. I'm going to stop there so we don't deviate too much from the game in question. Now, let's take a look at the gameplay for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a classic beat-em-up game that was released during the peak of the beat-em-up boom of the late 80s and early 90s. Each player has an attack, a jump, and a special attack that deals slightly more damage when pushing both of these buttons together. In close quarters, you're able to initiate throws on enemies. Players can also slam enemies into walls or solid objects to help defeat them more quickly. Absent from the game mechanics are things often seen in later beat-em-ups, such as dashing, blocking, and picking up weapons and items in the environment. However, many environmental objects, such as traffic cones, parking meters, fire hydrants, and exploding oil drums, can be hit or damaged with attacks in order to help defeat nearby enemies. The player can choose between the 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Each turtle plays slightly differently than the other. Donatello has a slower attack speed, but a longer range. Raphael is quicker, with a shorter attack range. And Leonardo and Michelangelo are a balance between the two. Leo, Mikey, and Donnie all have similar special attacks where they jump swing. Raph instead has a roll attack. To me, Raph stuck out as the weakest character. His attack range is noticeably shorter than the other three, and his roll attack kept constantly getting countered every time I tried to do it. I didn't notice much difference when playing as the other three characters. The difficulty starts off pretty easy and then progresses significantly after level 2. The Turtles primarily battle foot soldiers, each color-coded to signify their attack style and weapon choices. Certain enemies, like the standard purple foot soldier and Roadkill Rodney robots, can immobilize the Turtles and drain their health, leaving them vulnerable to attacks from other foes. Deadly objects and environmental hazards are riddled throughout each level to keep players on their toes. Each level also contains a box of pizza, which instantly replenishes health. Most of the levels use the core mechanics of classic beat-em-ups, with the exception of the one skateboarding level that acts more as an on-rails level. Bosses start off relatively easy and then get harder the more you progress. Most players can beat the first boss on their initial credit, but a few levels later, you'll notice bosses have the ability to interrupt your attacks more frequently. The game is heavily adapted from the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, and starts off with the Foot Clan attempting to kidnap reporter and friend of the Turtles, April O'Neil. The Turtles must save her from a burning building, but during her rescue, she is kidnapped by the evil Shredder. The Turtles must pursue Shredder to help rescue April. Later in the game, Shredder's goons also kidnap the Turtles' sensei, Splinter. It's up to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to save their friends and stop Shredder. Several of the cartoon's villains show up as bosses and include Rocksteady, Bebop, Baxter Stockman in his human form, Granitor, General Trag, Krang, and then finally Shredder himself. The game progresses the story through the use of quick cinematics and sound bites that play between levels.
Come and get 'em, Yell Brain.
When comparing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to other beat-em-ups that came out around the same time, the game doesn't really have unique moves or button combinations, but the game is a blast to play and became a huge hit due to its already established IP. Now for the results. How much could you expect to spend on this game back in 1989? Now, if you've watched this series before, then you know the drill. I played an emulated version of this game and used a coin counter to count up every time I hit the insert coin button. Now, I always play by the default settings on the arcade. This game defaulted to medium difficulty and cost 25 cents for 2 lives. Where you can really expect to spend your money is around the boss battles. Especially later in the game, the bosses become a little bit more cheap, they start taking more damage, and start interrupting you mid-attack. And at the end of my playthrough, I wound up spending $7 to beat this game. So, if you were playing this in an arcade that charged 50 cents per continue, that would bump this up to $14. Adjusted for inflation, and that is $17.78 in today's money. Or $35.57 if you're playing on 50-cent credits. With that, now it's time to figure out where we're going to put this on the Predatory game scale. The scale runs from 1 to 5, 1 being extremely not predatory, and 5 being extremely predatory. And I think that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a game that's kind of deceptively predatory. It doesn't practice the obviously standout predatory metrics that games like X-Men do. There are health packs within each level, and there's no special move that takes away your health every time you do it. I do also think that this game is a little bit harder than the other beat-em-ups that I've played, and it may take a little bit more skill to be better at this game. With that being said though, the game does only take about 40 minutes to beat, and with it costing around $20 in today's money to beat, that does seem a little high to me. The game kind of seems like it's made for you to get to the bosses and then have the boss beat you so that you're more inclined to put in more money, with the bosses just getting harder each level and then having the ability to interrupt you. In fact, the later bosses, I feel like it's probably almost impossible to beat any of them on a single credit. And if you do, then you're probably using methods of just kind of jumping in, hitting them, and getting out, and you have much more patience than I have. And the final fight against Shredder feels like it went on just a little bit too long. He does this thing where he like clones himself, and then you don't know which one's the clone and which one's the real Shredder, and he takes a lot of damage before he starts dying. I don't know exactly how much off the top of my head I spent on Shredder, but I can pop it up on screen here. So, with all of that in consideration, on my predatory game scale, I'm going to give Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a 4 out of 5.
Ow! Shell shock!
Despite the fact that this game turned out to be a little bit more predatory than I thought it would, this game is still a blast to play. And if you happen to be a parent who's trying to introduce their kid to video games that you played back in the day, like many of you were in my comment section of my last video, I think this would be a perfect introduction into video games for them. You can get this game today in the Cowabunga collection that came out in 2022. And also in 2022, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge came out, which is really a spiritual successor to all the old Ninja Turtle games like this, the Ninja Turtle beat 'em ups. It took inspiration from all those games. I played it. It's fantastic. Highly recommend. And for those of you who are interested in playing, I'll leave a link to where you can purchase these games in the video description. Hey, thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, it would mean a great deal to me if you can give it a big thumbs up. And before I get into what I'm going to do next, I'd like to shout out another creator. The Quarter Pumper does similar videos to Arcade Economy, except they're in a Let's Play format, so you can see in real time how much he's spending on arcade games. Plus, he's got an amazing, soothing voiceover voice, and it's always great to see how much he's spending and compare it to how much I've spent on my videos. I will leave a link in the description below to the video that he did on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let me know in the comments below anything that you would like to see me do in the future, some games that you would like to see me explore. Now, I will be taking a look at Turtles in Time in the future, but up next, I'm going to be diving into the game that initially I was going to do next. Yes, that's right, it's WrestleMania, the arcade game. This game got me into wrestling in the 90s, and it's not really as famous as some of the ones I've done before, but it still holds a special place in my heart. So I'm very excited to do this game next. So hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your support. Until next time.